Hello and welcome to my first Mama in a Minivan of 2022. This is where I take a little bit of time out of the many hours I spend waiting for my daughter or her activities every week to discuss everything brain body biome. Ideas for support, challenges that I see in clients, and of course challenges that I experience myself. People are often curious. And this week I want to share around the challenge of reentry. Perhaps you saw my Work-In Wednesday last week with some ideas of integrative tools from the brain-body world, from the brain gym and reflex integration that I use in my inner resources program. Really, it was about how do you apply those tools when you're trying to get back on schedule with work after perhaps some time off at the holidays, get back on schedule with your family, getting the kids out the door, packing the lunches, all of that. And so those tools are there for you to look at, and you can reference many videos on my YouTube, but I'm going to share with you personally how that reentry week went for me. It was a 4-day week. My daughter started back to school on Tuesday, so we were out of town skiing, came back, and started work back up on Tuesday. So 4-day week, no problem, right? It's exhausting no matter how many days in the week to try and get back on the schedule. And my husband started back to some travel, so that changes the dynamic as well. So it came to Friday evening, and my husband was in charge of driving my daughter to dance as he was back in town. And I was like, yes, I've got some time to myself. I'm going to do some movement, and I'm just going to have this time, this coveted, hard to find time where I can really take care of myself. And it got to Friday evening and I was just tired. I didn't feel like moving. And when this happens, years ago, I maybe would beat myself up and say, oh, but you need to, you haven't done it today, or maybe you haven't done it in a few days. That's not where I go anymore. I've really grown and evolved to the place where I go, I become curious. What's going on? Am I tired? Am I dehydrated? What do I need? Is it not movement at this time? Because maybe there's something else in my self-care box that I needed. And I told myself that I really needed integration because I was feeling depleted. And integration to me, with my perspective of the work that I do, is integrating the right and left side of my brain and body and heart space. And so truly integrating. And so that can look like a moving meditation, and that's what it turned into for me. I decided to do some preparatory movements, nothing too energizing because it was evening and I wanted to make sure I could sleep well that night. But I started out, I did pace, I did a couple of other things like AT&R to get me right in that present moment, and I have videos on all of those on my YouTube or past Work-In Wednesday. And then I just dropped in and got really intentional. I took the time, the gift of the time, to really notice what was showing up in my brain and my body and my heart space and where that was showing up, and really get descriptive with it and really present with it. And then I wrote some very simple intentions, and then I moved. And I just moved very gently and very creatively, and I had amazing music on in the background that supported me. And as I got moving, I found what I really needed, which was to breathe. I wasn't breathing fully. I wasn't breathing restoratively. And so I did some movements, some integrative movements. And before I knew it, I was having so much fun exploring and moving and becoming curious and creating new ways to integrate contralateral movement and explore homolateral movement and then follow up with contralateral movement. Before I knew it, I was moving. And I wouldn't say it was an intense movement session, but it was definitely more than I originally thought that I would be doing. I thought I would just be doing a very gentle balance, as we call it, where you integrate right and left side of the brain going through homolateral, homologous, and contralateral movements. But then I built some curiosity that built into a little bit of intensity, and I found new ways to connect to my core that were really fun. And so this was me. It was like a jam session. This is what I personally needed. And just being willing to say, okay, I don't have to move with any sort of intensity, but then becoming curious and moving, I found that my body did appreciate some intensity because it increased my breath. I found where there were some stuck spots in my diaphragm, which is something in my respiratory diaphragm, because we really know that there are at least 4 diaphragms in the trunk body and then a diaphragm in the arch of the foot and the upper palate. At least some of us that work in the manual therapy world and the holistic world view that. So I found that my respiratory diaphragm was stuck in some areas, which is often something I'm working on, and I worked with that. I got the body rolling ball out. It just turned into this really amazing experience, a real gift. It turned out to be more than I thought it would be, because I just followed where my brain, body, and heart space led me. And that's what I love about this work. That's why I created inner resources and innate connections, to help people find that within themselves we can guide ourselves to what we need, what our nervous system needs. Do we need calming movements, or do we need energizing movements, or do we need calming first and then grounding, energizing movements? It's just, there's so many great ways to go when you really tune in to what your body has available innately. So anyway, I'm just sharing how the week ended for me. Now we're into week 2, just a couple days in, feeling pretty good. Don't necessarily have that window of time like I had Friday evening to explore. I gave myself the gift of about an hour Friday evening. And so I'm taking 15 minutes here and there and just trying to tap back into that and make sure that I'm staying integrated. And you can learn about these techniques in my Workin' Wednesdays. All over my YouTube channel, I have videos that share around this. And in the upcoming Inner Resources Workshop, which is probably coming early February. I say probably because the date's getting pushed back a little bit with some tech challenges. My computer has been in the shop and I may have to get a new computer, but they're hard to find right now. So anyway, I hope your re-entry is going well. I'd love to hear what is challenging you. Is it fatigue? Is it getting into a good sleep schedule that's causing fatigue? Is it energy? Is it just that internal motivation to get going? Here in the Midwest, it's cold, and sometimes we just feel like hibernating, but I probably would be hibernating in bed with the dogs already, but I'm out to pick up my daughter from her activities. Thanks for listening. I'd love to hear where you're at with everything. And remember, never ever underestimate a mama in a minivan.